A U.S. aircraft carrier is not just a ship. It is a moving symbol of power. The world has built many ways to kill ships. There are long-range missiles, anti-ship missiles, submarines, and new bombers built to hunt fleets. On paper, a carrier can look like a huge target sitting out in the open ocean. So, here is the real question. In modern war, why has almost nobody dared to attack a U.S. carrier, or even move close enough to look like they might? Is a carrier easy prey if a nation is bold enough, or is it protected in a way that makes the approach itself dangerous? If an attack did land, how big would the damage be for the United States in military terms, political terms, and deterrence? And most of all, what price does a nation pay the moment it chooses to strike a U.S. aircraft carrier? Let's break it down. The first answer is not emotion. It is math and geography. The ocean is huge, it is mostly empty, and a carrier does not stay still. It can move over 30 knots. That is more than 35 miles per hour. Give it half an hour, and it is no longer where you last saw it. This is the heart of the problem for any attacker. An attack is not one simple action. It is a chain of steps. You have to find the target. You have to confirm it is real. You have to send the data to command. Command has to decide. The order has to go out. The weapon has to be prepared. The weapon has to launch. Then it still has to fly to the area. During all of that, the carrier keeps moving. That is not luck. That is the point. U.S. carriers move to expand what you can call the circle of uncertainty. There is also basic physics. To launch heavy jets from a short deck, the ship works with the wind. It steers into the wind to build extra airspeed for takeoff. But there is a survival reason, too. A still target is a dead target. Nuclear power lets a carrier run hard day after day. It can change course and speed again and again. The sea becomes a moving chessboard, and the king never sits on the same square for long. That is why spotting a carrier once is not enough. You need real-time tracking. You need constant updates. You need fresh data without breaks. Without that, even the best missile is only flying to where the carrier used to be. People then ask about satellites. Yes, satellites help. But they are not a live camera parked over one spot forever. They fly in orbits. They have gaps. They have timing limits. Some sensors struggle with weather. And even if you get an image, you still have to turn it into an attack plan. That takes time. Time creates delay. Delay creates drift. So attackers try to push other sensors closer. Recon planes, radar ships, submarines, drone systems, layer after layer meant to keep the carrier under watch. But there is a cost. To see clearly, you must get closer. And the closer you get, the higher the risk. Because you are now entering the zone where the carrier strike group can spot you, track you, and hunt you. This is the first big barrier. To attack a U.S. carrier, you must solve that circle of uncertainty. You need data that is fast, accurate, and non-stop. You need enough certainty to turn a moving force into a fixed point. The moment you try to get that certainty, you run into the next wall. Electronic warfare. Invisible pressure that makes your picture unreliable and turns every lock into a gamble. Around a U.S. carrier strike group, the real fight starts long before the first missile is fired. It begins in silence, inside the electromagnetic spectrum. At first, the U.S. Navy listens. Major U.S. ships carry electronic warfare systems like the AN/SLQ-32 and upgraded versions tied to newer programs. You can think of these systems as ears that can detect radar and signals far away. If an enemy radar is like a flashlight, these systems can see the beam from beyond the horizon. This leads to the first rule of this kind of war. If you shine first, you reveal yourself first. The moment an attacker turns on a search radar to look for the carrier, they are announcing their location. U.S. receivers pick up the signal. They analyze it. They compare it to known threat patterns. They can often tell if it is harmless surface radar or a fire control radar meant to guide missiles. Once the threat is identified, the posture changes. Listening turns into fighting. Now the strike group can jam. That means pushing energy into the enemy receiver to ruin its picture. On the attacker's screen, clean targets can turn into noise, tracks break, the view becomes messy. But the goal is not only to make the enemy blind, the goal is to make them wrong. And that is where U.S. Naval Air brings a key tool, the EA-18G Growler. It is not a bomber. It is an electronic attack jet. Its job is to create confusion. The Growler can jam, but it can also deceive. One way is by taking an enemy radar signal, copying it, and sending it back in a distorted form. The attacker does not see a blank screen. They see false contacts, too many contacts, ghost ships, phantom formations, a hall of mirrors over open water. Now the attacker faces a hard problem. Which track is real? Which is a decoy? If they fire too early, they may fire at a lie. If they wait, they may lose the window. In modern war, short delays can be fatal because while the attacker hesitates, U.S. forces can already be attacking back, using the attacker's own emissions as a guide. Let's assume the attacker still gets lucky. Let's say a missile does get a lock and comes in fast even at high speed. The carrier group still has more cards to play. It can launch decoys and release chaff, which is a cloud of tiny metal strips meant to confuse seekers. Some decoys act like a brighter target than the ship itself. A missile seeker does not feel pride. It follows programming. It often chases the strongest signal. In the final seconds, the missile may turn away from the real ship and commit to the decoy. The blast happens away from the hull, and the carrier keeps moving. But what if the enemy does not rely on one missile? What if they try a real mass strike? Aircraft overhead, submarines below, missiles coming in waves from many directions. This is the nightmare scenario that U.S. commanders plan for. A saturation attack meant to overload defenses and force the strike group to run out of interceptors. The goal is to flood the sky and hope something slips through. The problem is that a carrier strike group is not built to panic in that storm. It is built to absorb it. In such a fight, the human commanders still decide the plan, but the defensive system reacts at machine speed. The Aegis combat system, working across cruisers and destroyers, helps build a shared picture. Tracks are made fast. Threats are sorted fast. Engagement decisions happen in seconds. The first layer of defense starts far from the carrier, often hundreds of miles out. An E-2D Hawkeye patrols high above. It extends the fleet's vision. It can spot enemy aircraft and sometimes track threats before weapons are even fired. That supports the best defense of all. Kill the archer, not the arrow. Why wait to intercept a cruise missile if you can shoot down the bomber or aircraft launching it? Fighters like F-35C and F-A-18 can push out and engage beyond visual range. That reduces the number of missiles entering the fight at all. But some threats will still come. Now the escorts become the wall. Cruisers and destroyers form the hard shield. Their vertical launch cells can fire interceptors designed for different threats. Some are meant to hit ballistic missiles high above. Others are meant to hit low-flying cruise missiles close to the sea. The key advantage is networking. One ship can detect, another can shoot. If one escort runs low on missiles, others pick up the job. This creates layered fire, shared tracks, and a brutal probability problem for the attacker. Getting through is not impossible, but it becomes rare. While the sky fight burns, another fight happens below. Enemy submarines may try to close for torpedo shots. The strike group answers with anti-submarine warfare. MH-60R helicopters search the water and drop sonar buoys. They listen for small signs, propeller noise, flow noise, the faint fingerprints of metal under pressure. If something does not belong, lightweight torpedoes go in. And the most dangerous hunter is the one you will not see. A U.S. attack submarine often operates near the carrier. Its role is simple: hunt enemy submarines before they get close enough to threaten the main ship. Underwater, there are no warnings. There is only a sudden impact, a shock wave, and a contact that disappears. Now imagine a few missiles still slip through. They are seconds from impact. That is when point defense takes over. Short-range interceptors launch fast. And if something still survives, the last defense is a rapid-fire gun system designed to shred incoming threats at very close range. The goal is to detonate the warhead early, or break the missile apart so the hit becomes less deadly. This is how the strike group survives, not by hope, by layers. Systems backing up systems, like a machine built for one purpose: keep the carrier alive. Even so, a carrier can be hurt. That is real. But hurting a carrier and sinking it are different problems. A carrier is a 100,000-ton floating city built with damage control in mind. Inside is not one open space. It is a maze of compartments and sealed sections. When a blast happens, the ship moves into emergency mode. Doors close. Flooding is isolated. Fires are boxed in. Power is rerouted. The ship can burn and still refuse to sink. The bigger secret is not steel. It is people. Thousands of sailors trained for damage control. The Navy learned hard lessons from past disasters. Their mindset is simple: save the ship, Fight the fire, stop the flood, keep the carrier in the fight. So here's the nightmare for the attacker. They fire, they see smoke, they think they won. Then the smoke thins, and the carrier is still afloat. It is wounded but alive. Jets may still be launching from what remains of the deck. That is the moment the attacker realizes they did not create surrender. They created rage. Politically, striking a U.S. carrier is not like sinking a normal warship. It is closer to attacking American territory. A carrier flies the U.S. flag. It operates as part of the United States. When a missile hits that hull, Washington will treat it as a major act of war. The image would not push the U.S. to back down. It would likely unite the public and wipe away limits on retaliation. It would feel like a modern Pearl Harbor. And once that mood locks in, the attacker faces a new problem. If they want to finish the job, they must strike again. Second wave, third wave, full commitment. But now the surprise is gone. U.S. forces are already hunting the launch points. Fighters are in motion. Submarines cut the water into zones. Satellites and sensors focus on the region. The strike group becomes a trap. The attacker must expose more forces to deliver a killing blow, and those forces are now moving inside a kill zone. This leads to the harsh reality. The space between hit and sink is where attackers can die. Many strategists see a carrier as a baited hook. The moment you strike it, you trigger a larger system designed to crush you. And that system is not only one fleet. The United States does not fight alone. If one carrier is hit, other carrier groups can change course. Forces from the Pacific, the Middle East, and other areas can shift. The attacker may not face one carrier for long. They may face 2 or 3. And the response will not come only from the sea. Long-range bombers can launch from distant bases. Stealth aircraft can cross oceans. Cruise missiles can arrive in large numbers. The U.S. response is not limited to ships. It targets the attacker's nervous system. Radar sites, airfields, ports, command centers, stockpiles, launch units. The goal is to break the ability to keep fighting. Then comes the quieter pressure, a blockade. The U.S. Navy influences global sea routes, choke points, insurance, and trade flow. If the U.S. decides to squeeze, shipping becomes dangerous and expensive. Tankers slow down, cargo stops, insurance prices jump, energy becomes tight, supplies thin out. Over time, the war does not stay on the ocean. It reaches gas stations, stores, and homes. Markets shake, pressure builds, stability cracks. The U.S. does not always need to invade. It can let an enemy system choke on its own economic stress. There is also the alliance effect. A U.S. carrier is linked to a wider network. Allies watch what happens. If a carrier is attacked, many partners will treat it as a threat to the entire order. And above all of this hangs the most dangerous force in strategy: uncertainty. Once a major asset is struck, nobody can be sure where escalation stops. That fear is part of deterrence. So the final point is simple. The question is not, can you hit a carrier? It is, can you survive after you hit it? Because the moment you strike a U.S. aircraft carrier, you do not start a clean fight at sea. You start a chain reaction you may not be able to control. The cost will not be measured only in one ship on fire. It will be measured in lost forces, lost trade, broken systems, and years of national strength erased. Modern war is not only about destruction in one moment, it is about the long strategic debt that follows. And the side that misjudges that debt can end up paying it for years after the smoke clears.